This is part 2 of a 3-part podcast.
Hey, this is T. Blankenship. Have you seen the new video of Wheaton Labs? It is permaculture awesomeness with all new and improved things like more rocket mass heaters, easy bake coffin, Willy Wonka, rocket cooktop 2.0, and the truly passive greenhouse. To see more, go to permies.com/tour. Again, that is permies.com/tour.
All right, ready for the next one?
The nutritional value of plant-based foods is highest right after it's picked or harvested.
Yes.
Right? So if I go, let's say I even buy organic, but I go to the store, buy organic, who knows how long it's been, and even if it's the best it can be the way it is grown, by the time it gets to my table, it's not as good as if I go out to the garden bed and harvest a few things to, put together a salad or whatever we're going to eat.
And even worse, even to take exactly what you're saying and take a black crayon and go like this all over it. It's going to be that. Like if you're going to go to your organic grocery store and buy organic broccoli, it is a variety of broccoli that has an incredibly high shelf life. And the way that it got there is because bacteria and funguses say that is not food. I'm not going to eat it. It's like cardboard. I'm just going to ignore it. And it turns out to be that there are varieties of broccoli that do not have a high shelf life, so funguses and bacteria are nom nom, that's rot. But, you'll go out to your garden and you'll harvest it and you'll eat it the same day, and it is full of nutrition to you, and the funguses and bacteria will be sad because you just ate their food, you bastard. And so it has nutrition, whereas the stuff at the stores tends to not, because that was given up in favor of something that looks broccoli shaped and has an extremely high shelf life. So, yeah, the amount of nutrition that you're able to acquire at the store is diminishing rapidly, and it has to do with, shelf life stuff, amongst other things.
Yeah, it's the picking too, right? It's the picking. If you pick a fruit when it's ripe, it has way more nutrients than if you pick it before it's ripe. And if you pick it to put it in a truck that goes to a grocery store, it wasn't anything like ripe.
Yeah.
So that nutrient, it might be sweet because they gassed it or they did whatever to make it look ripe or ripen up, but it's not a fruit the way the fruits you pick off your own tree. So it's really, I don't even think you can hardly compare store-bought food to real food. Yeah. But I do think your apartment people can do a thing, the guerrilla gardening, and someone just mentioned it in the chat. When I lived near Seattle, people would do this a lot. There was a lot of land that was just out there doing nothing. And it was fertile, lovely land. And people would just go out and garden. And, it doesn't hurt anyone, and you don't have to pay for it. And I think it's nice.
I know that when I was in the Seattle area, I knew the parks that had all of the stinging nettles.
Oh, yeah.
And I would go hit all the stinging nettle spots and get all the stinging nettles. And but I think eventually they have a kind of a berry there that they call a huckleberry that's very different than a Montana huckleberry. It's a red berry.
A red huckleberry, oh yeah.
It grows in a high bush.
Uh-huh.
And I ate those as a kid in the Seattle area. And then but also as an adult. But I think in time other adults started to figure it out. So it's like the bush next to the trail, but there's no berries on it anymore.
Yeah.
Other people figured it out. It's good for them. Good for them.
Well, right. And even then, in an urban setting, why are we planting species that have no food value? As opposed to, would it be bad to plant some of these fruit-bearing trees and shrubs that people could forage from in an urban environment?
Well, I would say in the Seattle area, already taken care of. I hope you like blackberries. That's what they've kind of gotten to the point where it's like, this is how you garden in Hawaii. You have to go out with a machete twice a week to keep everything else away from what you're trying to grow. Mm-hmm. And it's a similar sort of thing in the Seattle area, and that you got to keep the blackberries pushed back. But I got to tell you, the blackberries, this is a Himalayan blackberry. It is like one of the most delicious blackberries I've ever had in all of my life. And it just grows everywhere there. Wherever there's a field that somebody has intended to, it fills it in with this beautiful food. You would think that there would be people selling blackberry jam at every Saturday market, Yeah. But I don't know, maybe everybody feels like they're sick of blackberries. I kind of feel like they should love it more. They should get it to be part of their culture. We're all about the blackberries. They should have like a holiday around blackberries. All right. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go on to the next thing. Boom.
I had a thing to say. Do we want to talk about it? Actually, my thing can be on any slide, and I'd rather not touch the live wire that is veganism. So I'm going to avoid the third rail on this one. I can say my thing on most of the slides because it's more about the meta conversation. Okay, the meta conversation, and this applies to don't fly on a plane. This applies to the light bulbs. This applies to the native plant species. This applies to veganism. Like you were saying, Paul, where you encounter people for whom that is the one and only solution, right? Where they've taken this, whatever the topic is, and they've taken that position into the core of their being, right? And many folks I've met, I'm not saying everyone's this way, but many folks I've met where they've taken this issue to the core of their being, and it's who they are. It is part of their identity. And at some level, from what I've read, when we threaten that topic, we're threatening the person's being, and they respond physiologically as it is a threat to their person, right? And when we propose that maybe that's not the only solution, or what if this other solution were even equal or even better, they respond accordingly, right? As though it were an attack on their person. And I'm with you, Paul, where, veganism has all these different axes, right? I'm not going to eat meat because you're not my real dad. I'm going to go eat Diet Coke and Oreos, right? Or I'm in favor of ethical treatment of animals, right? Like same, right? I don't want to eat animals that were sad in their raising, and also like when we keep animals, we have the ethical responsibility for their caretaking, right? We take on the responsibility for taking care of them. All those different aspects of veganism. And then also there's the meta conversation of any of these topics, a person's taken on this issue, and I want to talk a little bit about, because, the topic of the throwdown is the twisted feels of being angry at bad guys, right? And the twisted feels of being angry at good guys, right? Because the good guys are now the bad guys. Just because we're talking about gardening instead of veganism, now we're the bad guys. And I want to try to help talk about, we can detach the topic from the person for that individual where, yeah, it's okay that you want to be vegan for whatever reason, right? Maybe you're mad at your dad, right? And you want to eat Diet Coke and Oreos. I would like for you as a fellow human being to eat more healthily, but like, fine, right? Okay, cool. You do you. And it's okay for me to garden, and it's okay for me to talk about gardening, and it's okay for me to suggest that you might enjoy gardening and you might find gardening valuable, and maybe even you wind up being healthier because you wind up eating some of the lettuce that you grew in a pot on your balcony, right? That was the thing I wanted to say, and veganism was just the right live wire to touch to say it, I think.
Well, I think to add to what you're saying, I think it is super duper healthy that people are coming up with things that define who they are.
Sure.
Who are you? Well, vegan. That's a pretty great one to have in defining who you are. And I kind of want to come up with some other things to try on that they might like better. But sure. Vegan and or the whole thing about don't fly on a plane, which is what we're looking at now, or the light bulb thing or whatever. And it's like those aren't so much about who you are as much as
Fair.
being a vegan. But I see that these things they make up who you are, and they're going to and so yeah, when you say something negative about it, it is horribly, monstrously offensive to them, because they've made this they've gone to all this work to define who they are based on this major component. However, when we're trying to solve global problems, should we just say, well, fuck it then, because this one guy is a vegan, and so I guess we're all fucked, and that's the end. Let's just let it go. By the way, I read something on the internet once. It said, whenever you say you do you, that is a euphemism for go fuck yourself.
Right. In a way, sure.
Oh, I don't think of it that way. I think it's really important for everybody to do the right thing for themselves. I think it's more important than telling them other people what to do.
But that specific phrase.
You're missing the joke. You do you.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You're too much of a Pollyanna. You're too sweet and innocent to get the rude joke that's woven into this. And so, whereas Ash gets it, look at him giggling away. So, I thought it took me a few ticks to kind of be like, what?
Uh-huh.
What? Oh.
I would have never thought of that.
Okay. All right. So, next topic, don't fly on a plane. First of all, I think that the don't fly on a plane thing comes from the idea of somebody has their own private jet, and they get onto their private jet and they go somewhere, and it goes through 2,000 gallons of fuel to do this trip. And if they got on a commercial plane, there may have been something on the order of 50 gallons of fuel that was used per person to do the same thing. And the point I'm trying to make is that some people are like, oh, I'm never going to get on a plane ever again because the environmental footprint is enormous. So then they get into their SUV and they drive 1,000 miles and back. They just use 200 gallons, which could have been done with 50 gallons if they flew on a plane. Now, for myself, I don't fly on a plane anyway because I'm a Montanan. And anyway, there's this whole thing about the real ID and stuff, and I'm electing to not get on a plane. But it's a different thing. The thing is that for a lot of people, they say this is like one of the number one things you can do to repair the environment is don't get on a plane. And then they go and they drive this long distance in a gas-guzzling vehicle, not realizing that they just had a much more substantial environmental impact. In fact, it was like, I don't know how many years ago, the tar sands or whatever, but there were people driving through Montana to get to the Dakotas to protest petroleum stuff. And they were getting there, and they're like, I remember one person was driving a Jeep Wagoneer by themselves. And it's like, that's not going to get very good mileage. And they went there to protest. And it's kind of like, you know what? If you just stay home and maybe build a rocket mass heater or two, maybe show others how to build a rocket mass heater, maybe the interest in petroleum will drop so substantially that it won't be worth it to them anymore to do what they're doing. I think that, protesting, I think, has been demonstrated to not be super effective. I mean, I think there are times when it's been very effective, but I think for the most part, it's like easy to be ignored. And it's like, on the other hand, if we can collectively agree to just use less petroleum, then they stop doing it. They're like, well, there's not enough money in it, and so I'm not going to do it. That really works. That's powerfully effective. So the key is that, people are saying don't fly on a plane, and then they're driving, and their environmental footprint is worse. And like maybe several times worse. And it's like, but they're convinced that the environmental impact of if they were to take the flight would be like 20 times worse than if they were to drive. And it's like, no. In fact, easy math right here. If your plane ticket costs $400 and the cost of the trip is going to be, $600 in fuel, I think that one thing to keep in mind, it's not like the plane company is going to actually buy $1,000 worth of fuel and sell you a ticket for $400.
Right.
It's like, no, it's going to be cheaper than the $400. And then somebody on Permies said something like, show me a ticket that's less than $400. And I showed him a ticket, $90.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not flying out of Winnipeg.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, that's just where I am is the issue. It's actually very expensive to fly it out of here.
I think I picked a flight from Seattle to Denver, and I tried to pick like airports that were like destinations that are going to be pretty big and pretty common. I mean, Denver's a hub for certain things and stuff, and I think Seattle is too. But anyway, I tried to pick something that was pretty, because the same for Missoula. You want to fly to Missoula, it's going to cost more because they just don't go there very often. I think I don't really know. They want more money. I don't get on a plane anymore, and I got to tell you, I thoroughly enjoy the idea of not going through the TSA thing, and it's like there's the whole concept of like, okay, buddy, do you want us to take a picture of your junk, or do you want Steve over there to fondle your junk? Mm-hmm. You got to pick one. If you're going to get on a plane, you got to do one. You have no choice. And by the way, and the other thing is like, it was a few years ago, we went to Tennessee, and I was being so smart. I bet almost everybody has got something like this, right? Yeah. And so, I put it onto my check-in bag, and then the moment that I arrived, I got it out and put it back in my pocket, because it's like I use this only like 8 times a day, and it's like the idea of reaching in my pocket is not there, just feels so bizarre, and then I'm flying back, and I wait through the long line, and there it is in my pocket, my Leatherman that's been with me for 20 years. And it's like, now it's gone. I had to buy a new one. And it's like, it's just kind of mortifying to me. Yep. And, I don't want to get on a plane anymore. I don't want anybody fondling my junk anymore. I don't want people taking pictures of my junk. I don't want to have to get there hours before the plane leaves, and then the whole thing of like, you're not allowed to have water with you from home. You have to buy your water for $9 for a little tiny thing if you want water.
You can't have your own water.
Yeah. It could be a bomb, I guess,
Yeah.
Or refill your water bottle from their water filters where they never replace the water filter.
And you can taste it. Ugh. What's that taste? What is that? And it's like, you don't want to know.
And drink non-home water. Yeah, I don't want to fly on a plane. It's got nothing to do with the carbon footprint. It's just all the other terribleness of the airplane.
I think that we might be a year away from like you get into a rig and like at 8:00 at night, and then you sleep in it while it drives you to where you're going. I'm looking forward to that, and I know that. So Ash, you used to live in Denver. I know that in my mind somebody wants me to do a speaking gig in Denver, and I'm open to that because of the fact that they've got a Meow Wolf thing in Denver now.
They have.
and I want to go see that. That's like the only thing in the world I want to see anymore, is to go see this art installation in Denver. But it's like I kind of need to stack some functions.
Right.
And I don't want to fly. And I'm tired of, and this the other thing too, is I'm tired of driving more than like 5 hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
If I could sleep through it, that'd be all right. All right. Our next item. Oh, stuff that makes a real positive difference.
Yay.
Well, Derek, did you have another thing about this last one?
I just wish more people who say don't fly didn't fly, and just, then the airports wouldn't be nearly as crowded.
Yeah. The other thing about the don't fly to me is it just sounds more like don't travel, don't see the world, don't see your family, just be smaller, don't make any impact. And I just feel like that's so backwards. Like, go out and see our beautiful world. Go be with your family. Like, when Ash flies across the country to come see us at Wheaton Labs and brings his shining face and all his wonderfulness, like that's huge. That's impactful. That's beneficial. I think it's way more valuable to go out and be beneficial and see and meet new people and have a life than to try to be small and don't hurt anyone.
Live your most luxuriant life. That's
absolutely. And if that's get on a plane, that's great. That's not for me. But other people love it. I'd rather drive.
Right. I think whether it's eating vegan or not vegan or travel or but at the same time, what I want to do is to make Ash's place so glorious that he's like, I'd rather stay home than go to Paul's house because this is just too sweet. And it also seems like rather than, because it seems like we were flooded with people coming here from Florida. And it seems like maybe I ought to go to Florida once in a while. And don't. Okay. All right. Never mind. Change my mind.
Rather, I'm not going to tell you what to do, Paul. I don't think you would enjoy it very much.
I think that at least one of the times that I went, I was given a whole bunch of awards.
Oh,
which,
okay. Well, if they're going to give you awards, then,
nice. Yeah. So, if they're going to give me awards, that was pretty cool. But it seems like it's been a very long time. The problem I have with Florida is coming from Montana is that is when you get there and they open the door and then they have this soup that pours in that you're supposed to breathe. Mm-hmm. And it's like I have to stop in that little vestibule for a moment to kind of like, okay, I got to try to breathe this. This is my air now. And
it's staggering.
And it's a challenge. It's different. It takes a while to acclimate. And that was weird. Okay.
Have you ever wondered whether a particular book was really good or just so-so, and if you could trust the reviews online? When it comes to books related to permaculture, Permies has a large list of reviews for over 100 books. Perhaps you're considering a book for yourself or a friend, or you're just curious about what's out there. Stop by Permies.com/book and take a look at the book review grid and read some honest reviews, and hopefully you'll find the next book to add to your collection.
Now for the brighter side of this whole thing. And it's like, okay, and I feel like there's probably 50 more things that would drive me crazy that people insist are good for the environment, things that you can do from home. And they're not. They're just either they're not, or they're dodgy, or they're not as good as they think, or something like that. But now here we are. Let's talk about what really makes a difference. And at the tippy top of the list, I want to push for just grow your own food. Even if it's just a little bit, because a little bit can grow into a lot. And I know I'm shifting gears in a big way to go towards this automatic backyard food pump idea of growing food in such a way that it has giant harvest windows, mostly through the winter in Montana. Food you can harvest in the winter in Montana. And I'm doing a lot more in that space. I have a lot more to do still. But how to make it so that growing food is like, can we do it for like 1/20th of the effort and it produces 10 times more food? And I think, yeah, the answer is yes. Yes, we can. The other one is rocket mass heaters. I'm so depressed when people talk about heat pumps anymore. I think a heat pump is a novel thing. But they talk about it like it is the solution, and it is not the solution. In fact, sitting next to a rocket mass heater, it is a really poor solution, a really expensive and temporary solution. But I think that, hey, what the hell? Have a heat pump, and next to it, have a rocket mass heater. Have both, and then see which one you like better. And I think that it is plausible that over the next couple of years, the cost of running that heat pump might triple or more. And our rocket mass heater is free to run. I mean, we ran it last winter with nothing but cardboard and garbagey paper and garbagey wood that we found lying around on the ground. And
they can't stop you. You can't stop them mailing you fuel.
Yeah. It's like, thank you, Amazon. You sent me this lovely fuel for warming my home. And this cardboard box will probably heat my home for a whole day. And I saved some from last summer, too. So, for tomorrow when I'm not getting a package. It's like, man, that's handy. So I think rocket mass heaters solve a long list of issues. And it's not just environmental problems for everybody, but it's going to, for those of you that are struggling to heat your home right now for, $4,000 per winter, boy, wouldn't it be nice to switch from $4,000 to $0? Mm-hmm. And even if you're going to buy cordwood, then it's going to be like, I don't know, if for this building, it would be roughly half a cord of wood to heat it just with cordwood, no cardboard. And a cord of wood right now is about $200. So it'd be like $100 per winter instead of thousands. And that thousands is, I'm looking at you, heat pump. And that's the other thing too, is when you try to talk to people about heat pumps, they're so passionately for it. Like, everybody needs to switch to all electric. And it's like, and so they want to talk about heat pumps, but they want to talk about how cheap the mini split is. And then when they want to talk about efficiency, they leave out the part that now they're talking about the in-ground system that costs 4 times more. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so it's cheap and so very efficient. And it's like, well, wait a minute, which one are we talking about? So if we're going to talk about mini splits, okay, cheap, and it saves you about 30% over baseboard heat, mm-hmm. And so resistance heat. So it's like, and then it's like in ground, okay, now you're going to drop $50,000 to put it in, but it'll save you 65% on your heat bill, which is nice. But boy, that sure was an expensive variety of nice. Mm-hmm. And then wait, there's more. If you don't take care of your system, your lifespan is about 8 to 9 years. And if you do take care of it, the lifespan is about 14 years. Mm-hmm. And so now you got to replace a bunch of the components. Yep. And it's like, so now there's this extra bill every, 10 to 14 years, depending on how well you take care of your system. And whereas the rocket mass heater, the one that's in the picture there, the one that we have here, it's now been through 13 winters, and it's still like it's brand new. I think it's going to last, 60, 70 years or more. I don't see why it would. I suppose it could fail, but even if I had to replace the whole thing, or some piece of it, some very important component, I think that the the cost is going to be well under $1,000. Whereas if you're talking about replacing a component in an in-ground heat pump system, I think you're probably talking about 10 grand or more. And the mini splits, it'll be 10 grand or more. So anyway, I kind of feel like, boy, these are cheap to build, quick to build, and basically now, and talk about having a life of luxury. So many people, their heating bill is so expensive now that they are turning their thermostat down to like really, really cold, and they are uncomfortable. They are not living their most luxuriant life. Whereas with a rocket mass heater, it's like 75, baby, no problem. Be as warm as you want. In fact, when we have Pina Colada Day, we jack it up to well past 80. Why not? It's free. So, another big one that is a solid win universally is
before we move on from rocket mass heaters.
Yes.
Is there room for me to add something?
Sure.
I agree with all the numbers that you spitballed for mini splits and for the heat pump numbers. I mean, expensive to install, expensive to maintain, and then you got to rip it all out and do it all again, right? And by comparison, the rocket mass heater, I very much appreciate the low installation cost and the even lower, like ridiculously, incredibly to the point that people don't believe you when you say your actual operating costs. It's ridiculously low operating costs for the rocket mass heater. And I'll add, having personally operated that one on the screen that I love so dearly, it's so damn effective. I can't run it as much as I want to because there's days when I want to run it and it's still too warm from the day before, and I'd be, I'd turn the house into a sauna, right? And I know you've said this elsewhere, I think in the permaculture playing cards it's in the rocket mass heater builder's manual. It talks about how when you add this thermal mass into your structure, your house, whatever, that thermal mass then also makes it more effective during cooling, during summer when you're trying to cool the home. That additional thermal mass aids both in the winter and in the summer, regardless of what conditions you're operating under, whether it's a heating cycle or a cooling cycle.
We've had some days here where the temperature hit 100, and the temperature inside the house never got, the warmest it got inside was like 74. But that was also because like at night it was down to 55 and we had all the windows open. But then the rocket mass heater, because of the design of it, it was pulling the cooler night air through the system. And then once the outdoors started to warm up, it stopped doing that. And we've talked about that many, many times. And then the whole room just stayed quite comfortable. Now, of course, what happens is that inside the house, it'll get down to like 69. And then when the outdoor temperature gets to 69, then we close all the windows. Mm-hmm. And we try to hold the cool inside, if you will. I know that that's not how it really works, but kind of, sort of, a little bit, not really, but kind of. And then if you're feeling warm ever, just go touch the surface of the rocket mass heater. It's so cool. But it does great. Now, we did have some nights where it only got down to like 65 at night. And so the next day it was really warm. So we have a mini split. And it's like, activate the mini split. And, so I think we ran the mini split, 4 days this summer so far. But like the last week or two, I don't think we've run it at all, even though we've been hitting 98, 99, 100. And it's because we are able to hold so much of the cold in from the evening, from the early morning, to keep it cool. I need a quick bio break. You guys keep this going without me for just a sec. I'll be right back.
Down the port.
Yeah.
CPS Barry's question on the screen. Yeah. Can a rocket mass heater replace a wood-burning fireplace? I want to give a provocative answer to the question because I want to say no. It's not going to replace your wasting wood by sending all that past the chimney, right? It's not going to replace it by you're no longer going to have any risk of chimney fire, right? You're no longer going to have this thing that's ineffective at heating your home, right? Instead, what you're going to have is a thing that is effective at heating your home, will have very low operating costs where you're not trying to damp it down and shove in green wood that didn't have time to cure because, oh yeah, you burned through all the wood that you did have that was dry and cured, and also running the risk of a chimney fire. I will say, and so that's the bad things it won't replace. The good thing it won't replace, you will not have caveman TV. You will not have flickering fire, which I thoroughly enjoy looking at. And the rocket mass heater in this configuration, the J-tube style, does not have that. There are others that do. There's lots more what I'll call fabrication complication in order to accomplish that. And for the thing that everyone wants the wood stove to be doing, which is heating their house effectively, this will not replace it because it actually does the job. It will be a significant upgrade over the wood stove. Mm-hmm. So that's my deliberately provocative answer of no, it will not replace it, but yeah, it'll totally replace it.
Well, and you can have your flickering fire. I actually stand at this one here in the house at Wheaton Labs, and I just stare at it. Yeah. I mean, you can watch the fire. There's no glass between you and the fire, and you can just sit there and watch it burn, and I love that. Yeah. We did build a couple that were the batch box style that have a piece of clear ceramic, so it looks like glass. And you can sit there and watch it, and it does do the lovely flickering, like in the shop. The fire flickers like it does in a regular wood stove, which I think is a really neat thing. So you can have either one. But yeah, it'll replace all your heating needs for sure. And we even were talking about the clothes dryer. Well, if you're running a rocket mass heater, that's a dry heat, and that'll dry your clothes.
Yep. And Diasari, I know I kind of twisted your question in order to create some laughs and answer it provocatively. Short answer is you can convert the thing that is your wood stove to have a rocket mass heater take its place, but there's lots of changes that'll need to happen. And of course, your particular scenario will inform what those decisions are and what those changes are. Size of your house, what size of the rocket mass heater that's replacing it. Can you use your existing chimney? Maybe, but there's lots more details that have to be particularized to your specific location.
I like the thing with that guy from Scotland where he starts off and he's got a wood stove and next to it is this couch. Mm-hmm. And then what he does is that he basically takes out his couch, which he said was falling apart and it was only like a couple of years old, and he replaces it with effectively a cob couch that has, ductwork in it. And then he takes out his wood stove and replaces it with a rocket mass heater core. And so basically it has the exact same footprint. There's no change in footprint. It's the same as his wood stove, but of course completely different. And then he talks about what the difference is now. And of course the first thing is like, a reduction of wood by a factor of 10. And it's like, and I love the one thing he said is this, like, when the teenagers leave the front door wide open in the middle of winter, it doesn't bother them nearly as much. It's like, okay, I'll close the door, as opposed to before yelling at those teenagers because it's like, you're making more work for me to keep the fire going. And, but now, it's no big deal.
Or if you're on electric heat, it's like money flowing out the door every time it opens.
That's true.
Rocket mass heater is like, yeah, it's fine, leave it open, it's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Ash wants to start another fire anyway.
Yeah, we have lots of wood. So I have loved being here with you guys, and I need to go. So thank you very much.
Bye, good to see you.
So, what's the next? Oh, community living is the next one. And that that one is an interesting one. And it's like, because here in America, as well as I think Canada, everybody is encouraged to have fierce and brutal independence and to fight for it. And I kind of feel like for community living, it doesn't really take that much. You simply need to be kind. And it's not even asking for a whole lot of kind, but I kind of feel like, the fierce independence, you're stupid. That's going to be poison on a community. And so, just for a little bit of kindness, you can trade. If you're willing to put in a little bit of kindness, I think that the benefits are phenomenal. Not only the costs go down, but now, you get to partake of this giant, glorious garden. And on top of that, there's a bunch of people in the building who love to cook fascinating and interesting things. And then there's other people that are incredibly entertaining. And just a rich community of fun stuff and rich conversation and just so much delightful everything. And it's like, what a glorious life, as opposed to, and this is something that it seems like I'm hearing more and more about, especially with the people who come here. Like, it's nice to be someplace, and you've both been here before, and Samantha's been here many times too. And the words were something like, it's nice to be somewhere where kindness has value. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of hear about like, well, what does that mean? And it's like, apparently so many places in the world, the rule of thumb is hostility. Mm-hmm. Because, and I think that so many people are being taught that the more hostile you can be, the more candy you'll get. And it's like, so that's kind of the norm. If you want, you figure out what you want, and then you'll claw your way into getting that. And if you have to like hurt 50 other people along the way, well, that's what you got to do. And I kind of feel like, wow, that is, and I used to work in the corporate world. I saw some of that, but I like to think that we're trying here to put value to kindness. I know that we've got some people here now where it's like they have stories of the before times. And it's like they just the ability to be here and to breathe a bit without, needless hostility. People aren't even trying to accomplish something and get something. They're hostile for the sake of hostility. So I don't know, but it is clear that, everybody's got to have a certain level of kindness or the system doesn't work. It's in many ways it's like a marriage, and we all have seen people where the marriage didn't go well, and it was unkind to the extreme, and it's kind of like at the same time, that whole mess, it could have been smoother, but it turns out our system rewards the unkindness. Whoever can be the most cruel gets the most stuff. And so cruelness pays. And so it's nice to have a place where cruelness does not pay and people just want to be in community, and so they want to be kind. However, there are still recipes to solve and stuff. But the thing is, if we're going to talk about veganism or not flying on a plane or a native plant enthusiasm or something like that, we're talking about how to solve global problems. And when we're talking about global problems, I'm thinking like pollution, climate change, things of that nature. When you live in community, it's like instantly you cut your carbon footprint in half. And your pollution footprint gets cut in half, and your petroleum footprint gets cut in half. All your all of your toxic footprints get pretty much cut in half. And the cost of living gets cut in half, which I think is a big issue for a lot of people. They're in a financial pickle. And so if they could live in a community, it could cut their costs in half. However, they would need to be kind, and possibly as a replacement to fierce independence. All right.
That may be just going back to our roots in a sense as a humanity, because we come from smaller groups, and urbanization is perhaps against our instincts in some respects. And if you even go back just a few decades, or maybe more than a few, to where even in an urban environment, there was a neighborhood that was often walkable, that you had, your neighborhood stores. You didn't have the, jump in your car and go to whatever, and perhaps to be able to, just looking out for each other and that sort of thing. And the urban environment, and that's where I spend most of my time, sadly, these days, is in North America, in a lot of cases, we don't know our neighbors, let alone cooperating and collaborating with them and exchanging what we have to offer or what we have in abundance.
I want to add to the thing about knowing your neighbors, and I have talked about this in podcast mentions where sometimes getting to know your neighbors is a good thing. And then there's the other times, like you got to know your neighbors. So then it turns out to be like, maybe it's a good idea to not get to know your neighbors. And I don't know how, it does seem like in the last month I've had to say this like 8 times, and I'm sure I've said it in a podcast once before, where through all of the interactions I have with so many different people, I choose to say that all of people in the United States, maybe it applies to Canada as well, are broken down into 3 groups that are the same size. The first group is they know their neighbors. Everything is wonderful. It is a delightful neighborhood. The neighbors are great. The government's fine. Everything about living there is paradise on earth. And then there's the second group. Something's off. Something is really bad. And it could be a neighbor that is horrible, or it could be the government, but something is a nightmare. It's not just bad, but it's a nightmare. And then there's group 3. And group 3 is made entirely of people formerly of group 2, but they moved away and they elected to live at the end of a road and not interact with people within 10 miles. And they just want peace. And it's like, so, and as part of the story, I tell about how when I first got to Mount Spokane, I wrote down the numbers of all the mailboxes on my road. And I sent everybody a letter with a stamp and everything, inviting them to my house for a potluck. And almost all of them came. And that's when I learned that there were some pretty intense feuds on the road with this community. And then apparently I brought criminals to my land. And I also have a neighbor who got to see my property and report me to the Department of Making You Sad for doing things that he didn't understand. And so after a while, what I decided was I need to move. And the next time I move, I'm just going to move someplace to the end of a road, and I just need to have some peace. I just want to build a wafati. I want to build hugelkultur. There's things that I want to do, and, and I want to build community, and there's things, all this stuff I want to do, but without this neighborly hostility. But I've also, doing speaking gigs, like I was at a place that was, I think, near San Diego, and it was a beautiful community, and I got to meet like dozens of the neighbors, and they were all besties. It seemed to truly be paradise on earth, but of course, for a price. It was so nice. It was like very expensive to live there. And people just generally didn't move out because it was so nice. And so it's like, okay, that, and now we're entering into an era where the cost of real estate is higher than it's ever been, which is, normal, but it's like, how is the ratio of the price of real estate compared to what people earn? Apparently that skyrocketed. So it's like, and so, what can we do for these people? And then there's also the comedies coming of like, are a lot of people going to be unemployed soon? It sounds like the unemployment thing has already started, and there's lots more where that came from. And what are those people going to do? So, all right.
This podcast is continued in part 3.
In a world on the brink of social collapse, one website stands above the rest to fight back the zombie horde of corporate trolls. Permies.com. Take back control of your destiny and protect your loved ones from the toxic gick coming at you from all directions. Strap on your overalls and start building that bunker of abundance with the good vibes and friendly, helpful insight found at Permies.com.